Hello there, welcome to the next in our series of studies from Carter's Lane Baptist Church. My name's Shaw, I'm Shaw Coleman, the minister of the church, and I'm delighted to welcome you to what's been an ongoing series that we have here, looking at what makes a saint. We're following a series which is based on this book, Friends of Jesus. Oh, it's a bit bright there, isn't it? You can see it now. And we've been looking at these saints, and today we're coming to Mother Teresa, that fabulous line drawing that Roger Adkins did for us. Mother Teresa, who is somebody that most of us have heard of. She's lived in the lifetime of, I would imagine, probably the majority of church members. And she's the first one that we've had where we've actually got video and photographs of her that we can look at and maybe learn a bit about her. And I want to look at her life. I want to ask what her legacy is, but I also want to say, well, what was she really like as a person? So let's have a look at some video to start off.
I was homeless and you took me in, not only for a house made of bricks. I was homeless, unwanted, unloved, a throwaway of society. But today we have right here in our country, we see the poor people, we see the young people with that disease, unwanted, unloved, a throwaway of society. Are we there to be that love, that kindness, that thoughtfulness to them, and share with them the terrible pain, the terrible feeling of terrible loneliness, being a throwaway, have no one to be somebody to somebody. This is the nativity of Jesus, being poor, being born as a poor. Hail Mary.
Perhaps we know her best as the saint who came from Calcutta with a mission to care for the poorest of the poor. Originally, she was from Serbia, although it's a bit complicated, the geography there, because she was born in Skopje, which was part of the Ottoman Empire and is now the capital of North Macedonia. Initially, she was a citizen of the Ottoman Empire for 2 years, 1910 to 1912. That became Serbia, 1912 to 1915. 1915 to 18, she discovered without moving that she was a Bulgarian. And then from 1918 to 43, she was a subject of Yugoslavia. And then 43 to 48, she became a citizen of Yugoslavia. But she had already moved to India. And between 48 and 50, she became an Indian subject and then achieved nationality by becoming an Indian citizen in 1950 until her death in 1997. She wasn't welcome in the communist Albania, which was what her area had become, until the overthrow of communism in the 1990s. So she then became an Albanian citizen for the last 6 years of her life. And to add to the complex, from 1996 until her death, she also was an honorary American citizen. By the time of her death, she had become internationally well known all around the world. In fact, in various surveys, she was one of the most admired women of her generation. She was to find herself better known than Princess Diana, which is quite extraordinary, really. Her sense of vocation was realised when she moved to Ireland to become a nun and take her vows, while she was busy learning English at the same time. And from there she was to go to Calcutta, where she taught in the school that was linked to the convent that she'd been in Ireland. In fact, she did so well there that she ended up being the head teacher. But she says that I had an experience of a call within a call. It was in 1946. The school that she was in was just outside Calcutta. But visiting Calcutta, what she saw there was dreadful. The destitution, the way that the poorest of the poor were just thrown out, ignored, unprovided for. She said, it's not even worth giving them food if we don't also give them a welcome from our hearts. This call within a call meant that she felt moved and got approval from the Vatican to found the Missionaries of Charity in 1950. The nuns took 4 vows, the 3 conventional vows of poverty, chastity and obedience. But a 4th one was free service to the poorest of the poor. And they cared for people dying from HIV/AIDS, from leprosy, from TB. The first hospice was opened in 1952, which was a Hindu temple converted into a home for the dying, where every person there, despite some later criticism, every person there was not made to act like a Christian, but was treated in accordance with their faith. But she was also running soup kitchens, dispensaries, mobile clinics and counselling programmes. In the 1960s, these were being opened all over India, and then later in Italy and Tanzania and Austria, and then in the 1970s, she was setting up units in America, Asia, Africa, and in Europe. In the early years, she had to beg for a lot of money, and sometimes she found it so difficult begging for supplies in the earliest days. She felt tempted to go back to teaching. You have only to say the word and all the comfort of school will be yours again. But her response, of free choice, my God, and out of love for you, I desire to remain. Increasingly, recognition came. In fact, part of it through a BBC documentary presented by Malcolm Muggeridge in 1969, whose whole approach was so moving that it caused his conversion as well to Roman Catholicism. And as time went on, recognition came in other ways too, including the Nobel Peace Prize, and that was a prize of $180,000 which she presented to the cause of the Sisters of Mercy. She was also given a special award by President Ronald Reagan to recognise the fact that she had transformed so many lives. She was not without her critics, and whilst I've listened to some of the videos that you can find on YouTube about this, the criticisms were that she was trying to convert people to Christian faith rather than caring for their physical bodies. I think there is enough evidence to suggest that even from the very early days with the Home for the Dying, that she was concerned to make sure people died with the familiarity of their own faith. There was criticism that the homes for the dying were not the nicest of places, not always the most hygienic. Although, again, I think those criticisms reflected the limited resources that were available rather than a deliberate policy. Perhaps more difficult for some people were her very controversial statements about both abortion and contraception. There will be people who will disagree with her, who are good Christian people. Her view was traditional, sort of Orthodox Catholic view. But she did give a very telling interview when she said there is no such thing as an unwanted child. Because if nobody else does, I want it. And this is another of her memorable quotes: "Poverty is not made by God. It is created by you and me when we don't share what we have." It is difficult to summarise her legacy, really. Well, Jesus did say, "Whoever welcomes a little child like this welcomes me." And maybe we can sum up her view as saying, firstly, every single person is important. She could not set limits to God's love. Secondly, she said that money doesn't buy everything that we need. There were some who even criticised her for getting money from people with rather dubious reputations on how they made it. But when she died, all she had left were her rosary and 2 saris, because for her, money was not the most important thing. So, a simple legacy. Everybody matters, every single person, and money doesn't matter that much. And in all of that, I want to finish by telling you 2 stories about her. The first was during the unrest in Beirut between the Israeli and Palestinian freedom fighters. She actually brokered a ceasefire between the 2 sides so that she could rescue 27 children from a hospital stuck in the middle. An extremely courageous woman. And then this final quote, which says, "By blood I am an Albanian. By citizenship, Indian. By faith, I am a Catholic nun. As to my calling, I belong to the world." An inspiring woman in so many ways. Well, thank you for being part of this study. Thank you for spending time. Any questions or comments that you've got, please do get back to me. And until we see each other again, do take care of yourselves in all these strange days. Look after each other as well. God bless you now. Bye-bye.